All right. So, hello, everyone. My name is Jeff Samataro, and I'm one of the directors at Ted Herbert's Music School. And today I'm joined by our piano instructor, Diane Francoeur. Hi, Diane. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. So, for those of you who don't know Diane, she's a very prominent music educator in the state of New Hampshire. She has taught at the elementary, middle school, and high school levels in the Manchester School District and was the band director at Manchester West High School for 15 years. Is that right, Diane?
That is correct.
Awesome. Some of her awards include the Manchester High School West 2010 Teacher of the Year, the New Hampshire Music Educators Association 2015 Distinguished Music Educator of the Year, the New Hampshire Band Directors Association 2016 Outstanding Band Director, 2016 Grammy Signature Schools Community Award, and the first recipient of the 2017 Aaron Singer Award. Did I get all the awards and accolades, Diane?
I guess, yes. I didn't realize I was that old, but as I hear that, you're reminding me.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So the first thing I wanted to ask you is I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about your musical upbringing and when did you start playing music? What instruments do you play and how did you get started?
Gosh, well, I was really blessed to be born into a family that loved music. And my dad was the youngest of 19 children, and he couldn't afford lessons. And I think that as I matured and I thought about that, it really put my heart in the city. And so when students would walk in, I'd look in their eyes and see my dad, thinking about
Hmm.
getting him an instrument, and how every little kid deserves that opportunity. So I started in first grade. So when we started school in my house, we started our piano lessons. And I had older siblings that were very inspirational with music. So I followed the footsteps, and we liked to sing, and music was fun in our house. So in sixth grade, I started clarinet so I could be in the band. Seventh grade, I learned the alto sax. And then we had marimba in the house, and we had drums. So I just played around on a lot of different things. And I loved to sing. I studied some voice, and I just had a great time. And I loved kids. So I had my oldest brother is a legend in music education. So I kind of followed, I was inspired by him. And my sister was fantastic at the elementary school level, and she coached me through the elementary years. So I was just, and my other brother played drums. He was amazing, although he didn't major in drums and performance, but he's still an amazing drummer today. So it was fun.
So you grew up in a very musical family. That's awesome.
Did, yes.
So when did you decide that you wanted to be a music educator?
So I think my whole life, like when I was 11, my brother got his first teaching job. So I kind of watched that, and I was being inspired along the way. So even at 20 years old, I went to school 2 years for music, and then thought I might want to go into business because my dad was also in business. Even though he had a lot of natural talent, he had never been able to study it, but he played drums, he played guitar, but he was a businessman. And I loved that. I was inspired by that. One day when I was working in the bank, my children were little, and I was counting a night deposit bag. It was right before the holidays. And I heard these beautiful voices of children singing Christmas carols. And I didn't even know they were there. We had a very busy branch, so I didn't even see them walk in. I was very riveted on my on the money I was counting. But when I heard those voices, I became emotional. Like I started crying right on the teller line. I said, "What is that? Is that like the stereo? What is that? It's so beautiful." And I looked, and all these kids were singing in the lobby. And I swore that day I had to do that. Even if I still didn't have the confidence at that point in my life to teach. And I just felt like God was speaking to me. I was like, I've got to do this. Whether I'm good
Mm.
at it or not, man, I got to do this. And that was the day.
I think a lot of meaningful like or teachers who take it very seriously and it's very meaningful to them. There's always that kind of moment where they realize like this is something that I want to do, and it's a very powerful moment. So
Hmm.
that's great. And
Thank you.
so what was your most memorable teaching moment in your career? You've been doing it for so long now. What's your most memorable moment?
That is such a hard question. I feel like after nearly 30 years of teaching in public schools, there were many moments. It's hard to remember them all, but I will say what sticks out to me is watching the student that wasn't really sure or didn't even realize they had musical talent recognize it and start developing as a musician. And to encourage them and help them find their own talent and their own happiness in that is very, very meaningful. For instance, I've had numerous opportunities to see students at this point in my life to see where they have progressed to. Well, so one of my former students performed at the Courier Art Gallery the other night, and it's just like, wow, they grow up. They graduate, but then they really grow up and they become incredible musicians and really sweet people. I have another one that has won a World's Trumpet Award, and just, I mean, the stories are endless. I saw one singing on Facebook. He's in the military band, and he's a composer. And it's so cool because I can remember them in the band room playing
Mm-hmm.
their licks and trying out their compositions, and that was their home. And
Mm.
I was so lucky to watch those students grow and to go through that part of their life and be a part of it. So that's
Yeah.
pretty.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, it's so powerful to see how the kids, how they grow up to not just become great musicians, but great human beings at the same time.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, in your opinion, so why do you think music education is so important?
Well, because I think music touches all aspects of our lives. And you can use music. I remember one time in jazz band, this one particular day, like we did many years ago, a student randomly started Waffle Day in
Mhm.
jazz band. It was a special thing and it became a tradition. And so one year we did a Thanksgiving Waffle Day, and all the jazz band students sat around a table and we had a little Thanksgiving feast with waffles and maple syrup and chocolate chips and whipped cream, and we all went around the table because I said, let's talk about things we're thankful for. And it was just amazing what came out of that conversation and how like appreciative they were of this piece of their life. So I would say music education really is about teaching leadership, right? It's teaching teamwork, it's building confidence, it's teaching empathy. You learn about cultures, you learn about history. I mean, what has changed music over the years? Really, it's people in society that directed the changes of music. How incredible is that when you realize it? And you
Mm.
just, you need one person or one moment that opens up that light for you. And it's really beautiful. And I think there's a lot of communication that you learn as well. You're doing a jazz combo, you got to communicate, right?
Yeah.
Where are you in this? You're trading fours. Where are you in this? And you're listening, and it's just, I don't know. There's just so much that you can learn. And I think one thing that helped me a lot to kind of streamline that learning process was working with our drum majors and our squad leaders and our officers. So our drum majors used to attend, and they still do, attend a drum major academy at UMass and Amherst. And that was very moving for them. They came back different people.
Mm.
They suddenly were not part of the band for themselves. They now were being very selfless leaders and trying to change the lives of their peers. It was just an amazing transformation. And so every morning before band camp, we would do a training process, and that's what we would talk about. We'd listen to, I had the curriculum from Tim Lotzenheiser, and I would, try, and different people, different things that had meant something to me. And so we just made it a whole program of leadership training. I became a better leader just by teaching, because we learn through teaching, right?
Yeah.
I think we learn more from our students sometimes than they learn from us.
Mm.
And once you see that you have the potential to be a great leader in your own life, I think there's no stopping our students.
So, what are and were some of your greatest challenges as a music educator?
I think even today, reaching the student that is maybe an unmotivated student, and why are they unmotivated? Do they just not believe that they can do it?
Mm.
Do they don't understand the discipline in it, or I don't know. That was always tricky for me. So, but I didn't give up. I always tried a little bit harder to find a way to connect. And I still am challenged by that. If I have a student that, private lessons, I love teaching at Ted Herbert's because it's a one-on-one thing, right? And you really
Mhm.
get to know your students, and you can practice all these things that I've learned through the years. You can do it on a one-to-one um, relationship with the student. But if I
Mm.
do have a student even today that doesn't want to practice, how do you get them to do that? Is it fear of failure? Is it just not finding the pleasure yet because they haven't found the right music? I mean, where's my responsibility in that? Have I not brought the right music? Have I not tried the right approach? And I always look at myself and say, come on, Diane, what can you do here to
Mm.
get them going, to light the fire? Like, what lit my fire? It's going to come from within. It's not always my fault, but I always wonder, is there a piece that I've played in that? So I try really hard to, like my students that have succeeded, I don't take the credit. That came from within them.
Mm,
I went along for the ride and just kind of encouraged them. So
mm,
the students that are not into it or haven't are not really putting forth their best effort, I guess I just wonder what I could do differently to make
mm.
this a better experience for them.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great, and that's such a powerful moment when they finally have that aha moment, right? And finally they start seeing the value and they start becoming motivated and working hard, and it's like, yes, we got
Yes.
there.
Hmm.
That's awesome. So if you could give any advice to any aspiring music educators, what would that advice be?
Stay positive.
Mm, yes.
Network with people. Like I was thinking about that whole topic. I think about that topic all the time because I just had so many great people around me. We have so many strong music educators in our state,
Mm,
and I had them in the city of Manchester. And my brother was a music educator in the state, and I think the first year that I started teaching at West, I was scared to death about it.
mm,
And I remember calling him almost every morning. He gave me a pep talk on the way to school. I mean, how lucky was I?
mm,
And so I depended on that. So, I had Andy Susie to talk to. And then Phil Martin, the late Phil Martin, God bless him. That when I told him I was teaching at West, I said, Phil, I need help teaching music theory. I don't know what to do. He says, oh my gosh. He smiled. Stop by Campbell High School on the way home. I still have his books.
mm,
um, there's just so many people. Dave Bresnahan has helped me. Mike Adams has helped me. I've just Jerry Bastion. Like I've had so many people around me, and my
mm,
colleagues that are at West now, and I could drop a million names, but I've just really been, and the younger students, teachers that are coming up. It's just Bob Couturier that's teaching over at TEDS. Like he was my student teacher. I learned so much from him. My kids loved him.
mm.
It's been an amazing life to be a music teacher. Was I always like this? No, I was discouraged sometimes. I was scared sometimes. I wondered, I questioned myself. But I think that the staying positive, stay out of negative environments, don't engage. If a teacher's room has negative conversation, go eat lunch in your office with your kids, in
Mm,
your band room with your kids. Like find another place that is going to keep you where you need to be so that you are on the path to success. Don't let anybody impede your path to success.
mm.
Don't
Yeah,
settle for anything less, and make those phone calls. Don't be afraid of calling like me. If you ever need help, this goes to anybody who's a new teacher. Please email me, call me, reach out to me. I'd love to help. Becca Berger over at West, once in a while, she'll give me a call. Like I'm honored when somebody calls me and asks for my input.
great. I love that. I love how you mentioned about going to a positive environment. That's one thing that I always loved about being a music student growing up was the positive environment that the music room was,
Yes.
and being able to go there, and it was like a safe haven for me to get away from some of the negativity that comes from, I mean, just growing up.
Mhm. Yes,
So yeah, and I also love how you mentioned too that New Hampshire has a lot of great music educators in it because it really does.
it
Um,
does.
yeah, it really does. Some of the most important people that I'd ever been around in my life were music educators in the state of New Hampshire. Made huge impacts on my life, and I credit where I am today 100% to them. So yeah, so I really appreciate you sharing that.
Awesome.
Well, again, Diane, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. And I want to personally thank you and all you've done for music education in the state of New Hampshire. And I think I speak for myself, for your past and present students and colleagues when I say thank you so much for all that you do and for being who you are.
Oh my gosh, you are welcome. It is truly my pleasure.
Well, thank you, Diane. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.